Alright, guys. It's time. Let me just check my live stream, make sure that it's working. Alright, guys. Okay, guys, let's get pumped. It's the night before. Let's get pumped, guys. It's the night before. We're gonna do some studying. So what we're gonna be doing is we're just gonna go over all of the chapters. So I went ahead and read all the books. I read all the chapters. Because I think that's why I didn't score what I wanted to score this last exam. So and a lot of it is um, it kind of seems like knowing the general ideas isn't enough. This were the things that I got wrong. It's knowing the specifics, so I went ahead and read the whole book, and so that should help for this walkthrough of the chapters, and so we should have a good time. I am also going to be going through the uh, the case studies that we have on Elsevier. So as you can see here, we're going to be starting at chapter 9. So we'll have case studies to go over, and also the answer keys at the very end of them. Principal keys, again, is just the same thing you see on your book, so we won't really go into that. So let's just get started here. All right. So this is also a scenery change. Normally I'm on my desk, but my girlfriend is cooking dinner right now, so yeah. All right. So I'm opening my book to I'm opening up my book to page 115 for Cultural Care, Chapter 9. Darby says she was the one to do the 142 stuff. Also, this is me right now. Okay. So let's just go over. I'm just going to read basically what I underlined. I only, the book has a lot of statistics, a lot of citations, bringing up most of the word count. So I'm just going to go over what I underlined, and, we'll just breeze over it. My intent with this is to remind. I'm not really teaching you guys new stuff as much as I am just reminding you all of stuff. So the term culture refers to the learned and shared beliefs and values and norms and traditions of a particular group, which guide our thinking and decisions, actions. We know this. Culture can also refer to relating to one another, language, manner, speaking, work life, lifestyle, practice, religious. Culture is a learned behavior, so we always have to remember that culture is actually an external factor, not an internal factor. And the big idea is culturally congruent care, or transcultural care, emphasizes the need to provide care based on the individual's cultural beliefs, practices, and values. Therefore, effective communication is a critical skill in culturally competent care and helps you engage a patient and family in a respectful and person-centered dialogue. However, to do this, we're going to have to address our own implicit biases, and we're going to have to be respectful and responsive to individual patients' preferences, needs, values, and ensure that patient values guide all care decisions. So a growing body of evidence shows that individuals with skills and confidence to become actively engaged in their health have better health outcomes. So basically, health literacy, if you're more health literate, you're going to have better health. And, a lot of that health literacy stuff comes with culture. So we have to meet them at their level. Anyways, every one of us has a type of bias that is culturally driven. So this is where we're going to get into biases, such as implicit biases, or otherwise known as unconscious biases. Implicit bias refers to a bias we're unaware of that happens outside of our control, which is influenced by our personal background, cultural environment, and personal experience. This type of bias is quick judgments and assessments of people and situations that happen without us even thinking about it and happen super fast. So yeah, for example, one might have a bias toward or against an individual based on culture, such as the bias towards an ethnic group, race, gender, ethnicity, nation, religion, social class, and political party. Anyways, a stereotype is an assumed belief regarding a particular group. Um, it is easy to stereotype various cultures. Stereotyping occurs in two cognitive phases. In the first phase, there's an activation of the stereotype when an individual is categorized into a group. This The second phase is when people use these activated beliefs and feelings when they interact with an individual. So basically, the first phase is categorizing someone into a stereotype, and the second phase is using that stereotype against them. Um, it's a weird way of overcomplicating that. Historical and social realities. So now we're going to talk about worldview. Historical and social realities shape individuals' groups' worldview, which determine how they perceive others, how they interact and relate, um, process information. Our worldview evolves during a lifetime process of interacting with family, peers, communities, organizations, media, institutions. Um, in any culture encounter, there's an insider perspective, emic, an outsider perspective, etic. So emic worldview would be like the example of the pregnant woman who's getting the seaweed stew. The emic worldview would be the people who are bringing them the soup. The outsider perspective, the etic view would be the nurse in charge, not really knowing what that's about. So let's talk about health disparities. Healthy people 2030 defines health disparities as a particular type of health um, difference that is closely linked to social, economic, and environmental disadvantages. So this could be poor health status, disease risk factors, uh, poor health outcomes, and limited access to healthcare are types of disparities that are often interrelated and influenced by the conditions and social context in which people live in. And so there's also social determinants of health on page 117. You can see in the top right are aspects of non-medical conditions in which people are born, grown, live, work, and age that affect health function and the quality of life outcomes. So 80% of social determinants of health are modifiable, meaning that they can be changed. Um, so yeah, I read the rest of this page and parts of the next page, and it didn't really say anything new. Other than the term marginalized. Marginalized people are or basically people who are oppressed and powerless. So this includes LGBTQ community, people of color, people who are challenged physically or mentally, and people who are not educated. Healthcare systems and healthcare providers sometimes contribute significantly to the problems of healthcare disparities. One reason is poor patient-provider communication. Populations with culture that differs from the culture of the healthcare provider also tend to encounter decreased access to care, which leads to poor patient health outcomes. To promote equal treatment for all patients who enter the healthcare system, we must be deliberate about addressing the impact of healthcare disparities. And then this is just a case study, so we can just skip over that. Intersectionality. Intersectionality is a research and policy model for studying the complexities of people's lives and experiences. The model considers how interdependent social determinants of health intersect to shape the health and well-being of individual communities. So basically, it's just intersectionality, how people line up on two different systems. For example, we're given privilege and oppression. So each one of us are in different stages of privilege and different stages of oppression, and basically it's just acknowledging the complexities of that. Oppression is a privilege is considered to be factors or advantages for certain individuals, groups, or population. Oppression is formal or an informal system of advantages or disadvantages tied to membership in social groups reinforced by social norms, biases, and interactions. To apply intersectionality model to daily nursing practices, think about the following patient who has... Oh, wait, no, man. That's a case study that I read. It didn't really offer anything new. As a nurse, you gain an awareness for your own individual racial, ethnic, and cultural biasness for yourself through self-reflection and identification of one's own beliefs and biases. So a lot of this is just talking about how we have to self-reflect, and that's the only way we're going to be really able to care for people of different races, different ideas, is that we have to acknowledge our own biases and also assess our own culture. All right, so let's get into some more definitions. Racial identity is based off of one's self-identifications with one or more social groups in which a common heritage with a particular racial group is shared. Racial identity and ethnic identity is basically the what you identify with a particular ethnic group, and they're both pretty alike. The process... Okay, so this is something I can see being an exam question. What is acculturation versus assimilation? Acculturation occurs when an individual or a group transitions from one culture and develops traits of another culture. And assimilation is the process in which an individual adapts to another's culture and no longer prefers the culture of its original culture. Sorry. Assimilation would be like me going from blue team to red team. And acculturation would be like, if I'm blue team, I like the ideas of red team, so I'm slowly going to become purple team. Right? It's just adopting traits of another culture. That would be acculturation. And assimilation would be like, I like red team's belief so much, I'm just going to be red myself, instead of kind of like merging the two. So acculturation is blue wanting to be purple because they see how cool red is, and assimilation would be blue wanting to completely be red because they see how cool they are. Anyways. And I didn't even highlight this just because we talk about it so much in class and it's kind of a gimme. People react differently to diseases based off their unique cultural perspectives. Each culture has different beliefs on what illness is, how to react, and why they were even sick in the first place. Anyways, core measures. The core measures are a set of evidence-based, scientifically researched standards of care. The measures are key quality indicators that help healthcare agencies improve and increase accountability, reduce costs. Measures apply to all patients. In addition to improving the standards of care, the core measures are intended to reduce healthcare disparities. So yeah. Core measures are just standards that are used to help everyone get the same. Cultural competence is the act whereby a healthcare professional develops awareness of one's existence, sensations, thoughts, and environments without letting these factors have an undue effect on those whom care is provided. So basically it means that healthcare providers must understand how social and cultural factors influence health beliefs. So be competent, be aware, right? Cultural awareness is the process of conducting a self-examination of one's own biases against other cultures. So being aware of your own cultural biases. Cultural knowledge is having knowledge of other cultures. Cultural skills, the ability to conduct a cultural assessment. Cultural encounters is the process of people encountering other cultures, and culture desires wanting to learn more and seek out those cultural encounters. Cultural respect, cultural humility. I'm not going to go over these. Cultural desire, we know. Uh, for example, here's a one that I thought was interesting. You may notice the patient is avoiding eye contact and you perceive it as disrespectful or showing disinterest, when in fact the patient's lack of eye contact is a sign of the respect, as a sign of respect, as some cultures believe it is expected when in presence of authority. So that's pretty interesting. Anyway, the rest of this page, page 122, doesn't say nothing. Let people storytell. Right, we always talk about storytelling. Linguistic competence is the ability to communicate effectively and convey information in a manner that is easily understood. So, being able to manipulate your language to be able to talk to whoever at whatever level they are. Um, Health literacy, we already know this. Next page. Oh, here's another examples of like different cultures and how that affects care. Congenital dermal melanocytosis is darkly pigmented birthmarks that appear mostly on darker people and should not be mistaken for bruising or a sign of abuse. Also, cupping. People, it says Asian people do cupping, so don't think it's any crazy lesion or anything. Teach back, use plain language, right? Ask people to do you understand questions. Avoid do you understand and avoid do you have any questions. Instead, do open-minded questions, open-ended questions like I just gave you a lot of information. Please explain what I just told you. What are you going to tell your family about the changes we're doing today? So yeah. Do like chunk and check, which is giving them a chunk of information and check that they understand. Clarify and check in again. Start slowly. Use the show me method. Clarify. Plan your approach accordingly to their health literacy levels. All right, cool. That was it. Culture care was very intuitive, so that's pretty good for us. All right, let's do some questions here at the end. Coral says he's tuning in. No one liked my message about this. I thought it was amusing. Anyway, let's get to it. All right, so the first question. I haven't done these questions. I kind of let them. I kind of waited at the very end just to really, truly check my comprehension. So this is actually going to be a run through, a real run through. A nurse is seeing all of the patients in a community health clinic. The nurse identifies which patient or patients as having a health disparity. A patient who has homosexual preferences. I'm going to say yes. We learned that people from the LGBTQ community face a lot of disparities, whether it be treated differently or they're uncomfortable even showing up, stuff like that. So I'm going to say yes. A patient who is unable to access primary care services, of course. A patient living with chronic schizophrenia. We did learn about how people with mental challenges, I remember, if you remember that from earlier, mental and physical challenges have that is a health disparity. A family who relies on a family member for transportation. Ooh, I would say yes. A patient who has a history of hypertension? No. Just because it's not really social. A patient who has a history. Oh, yeah. So I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, and 3 were correct. So that was LGBTQ, unable to access primary care, and living with chronic schizophrenia. 4 wasn't one, however. Let's see why. Okay, it doesn't say why. I would. It says that a health disparity is their inability to access health care. However, I would say a family who relies on a family member for transportation would be a limit to healthcare access. Whatever. Okay. A patient who, a 35-year-old female patient who has a Medicaid coverage for herself and 2 young children. She missed an appointment at the local health clinic to get an annual mammogram because she has no transportation. She gets the annual screening because her mother had breast cancer. Which of the following are social determinants of this patient's health? So she does have medical insurance, right? So to the social determinants of patients. Okay, so I'm just looking at the answers for this one. 1, 4, and 5. So Medicaid insurance. Born, grow, live, work, and age. Man, these aren't even rationale. These don't even say why. Medicaid insurance. I wouldn't really say Medicaid would be one, right? Social determinants of health are mostly responsible for health disparities, but she does have Medicaid insurance. Lack of transportation, yeah, that makes sense. And patient's age. Right here says age. Okay. Whatever. A nurse is conducting a nursing history and physical assessment on a patient, which finding alerts the nurse to assess the health literacy for patient needs. Patient has difficulty completing the registration form. I would say yes. Patient asks for written information about a health topic. That makes me think that they know more. Patient speaks Spanish. Yes. Patient states unfamiliarity with newly ordered medicine. Says 1 and 3. I guess that makes sense. Unfamiliar with newly ordered medicine. I mean, no one's gonna have familiarity with that, so that's okay. And written word 1 doesn't really say much. Okay. I don't really think too much about it. All right, a nurse desires to communicate with a young female patient who is from a culture from a different one that is different from the nurse. A patient has a limited experience with being in a hospital. The nurse has 10 years of experience caring for patients from this culture. The patient was admitted for a serious pregnancy complication. Apply the LEARN model and match the patient's behaviors. What the hell is the LEARN model? I gotta go back, guys. I don't know what the hell the LEARN model is. Yeah, I have no idea where that learn model is, anyways. Dude, am I crazy? Where's the learn model? Dude, am I crazy? Where's the learn model? Okay, I see my viewers here. This is actually the first time hearing about this term culture. That was good. Hey Leslie. Hello, Doctor Who. Merch dropping whenever you want. Am I crazy, guys? Cause someone texted me on group me. Where is the learn model? Oh, okay, cultural desire. Okay, so L is listen to a patient's perception of the problem. E is explain your perception of the problem. Okay, that makes sense. First, the patient. Wow, Coral's on it. Okay, A, acknowledge not only the difference between two perceptions. Okay. Recommendations must involve the patients and negotiate a treatment plan. Okay, that makes sense. First, I'm gonna listen to you first. Then I'm gonna listen to me. Then we're gonna meet in the middle, and then I'm gonna recommend you something, and then we're gonna negotiate. We're gonna see what we want to do. Okay. So I'm not even gonna bother doing that now. That makes sense. The nurse educator is working with a group of nurses in continuing educations, which statement made by the nurse about the teach back method shows understanding of the techniques. After you're teaching a patient how to use an inhaler, I need to use the teach back method to evaluate. Yes, I would say yes. Teach back method is an ongoing process of asking patients for feedback. Yes. Using teach back method will help me identify explanations and communication strategies that my patients will most commonly understand. Yes. Using picture drawing the model can enhance the effectiveness of teaching. Yes. When doing my patient teaches, I will play. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, and it says that it's all of the above. Perfect. Family dynamics. Alright. I won't do the case studies today. I'll do them tomorrow with you guys. Or I might just do it right now. Yeah, we know all these. We just read all these except imposition. Cool! Done. Okay, we will be doing them. I forgot how short they are. Anywho. So families are important. Family durability. I'm on page 131 now. Damn, my life popping, bro. My life fire. Family durability is a system of support and structure within a family that extends beyond the walls of the household. For example, marriages may end up in divorce or death, and remarriage may occur, or children may leave home adults. But in the end, the family transcends long periods and inevitably lifestyle changes. So even if my mom divorced my dad, she would still be my family. That would be family durability. Family resiliency is the ability for a family to cope with unexpected stressors. So something were to happen. Um, and these are so similar, and it's kind of hard to remember. So I think of like durability as in like this person will always be my family, and family resiliency as like uh, as a classic definition. Durability and resiliency are a synonym, so it's kind of like fuck you for doing that. Whoever wrote this. Family diversity is the uniqueness of each family unit. Remember LGBTQ families, step family, lesbian, gay, single parent families. Every person within the family has specific needs, strengths, and importance. Family dynamics is the interaction between and among family members that are affected by family's makeup, structure, function, problem solving, and coping capacity. The goal of family-centered nursing is to address the comprehensive healthcare needs of the family as a unit and to advocate and promote, support, provide well-being. Okay, so right. So this chapter is all about not just treating the patient, but treating the family. And we'll kind of talk about as a context, as a system, and as a patient later on. But basically, it just helps the because the patient's gonna get all their health care, home care from their family, so they need to be involved. They know the family members' values, so they're gonna help with the decision making. They are also receiving tons of stress from like, let's say the father was the primary breadwinner, and so he gets sick. There's going to be a lot of family stress because people are going to have to adapt. There's going to be no money. So in a lot of ways, the family is also a patient. We have to connect them with resources. So yeah. The concept of family. What is family? It's who we say is family. It can be legal. It can be not legal, biological. It doesn't have to be biological. But it's still important definition because tax returns when you file your taxes, school records, who can pick up my child, who can benefit from my benefits from my job, programs. They want to know who's your family. Understand that families take many forms and have diverse cultural and ethnic orientations. No two families are alike. Family forms are patterns of people considered by family members to be included in the family. Overall, then we start talking about family troubles like a divorce. We know what's going on. Balancing employment with family life creates a variety of challenges. Yeah, childcare. Yeah, home work, home care work. Yeah, that makes sense. Unwanted pregnancies, same-sex marriage, LGBTQ. These are just trends right now. Family caregivers are a crucial part of healthcare team because they provide most of the physical and emotional care the patients who wish to remain in their homes. Right, so these guys are caregivers. However, we gotta acknowledge that family caregivers often get super depressed. They need to have good coping strategies. They're also often the people who are abusing the patient. So We'll talk about that when we could talk about elder mistreatment. It's often the patients. It's actually the family members, I should say. Poverty. Poverty affects families, right? Affordable Health Care Act improves the affordability of health insurance. Housing insecurity affects families, right? If they're struggling with their homes, they're not going to get a lot of good health care. Hierarchy of needs. Domestic violence. The family can be a source of violence. Okay, rigidity. Now we can talk about this. In one family, a rigid structure, the mother is the only acceptable person to provide emotional support. So this has their has pros and cons. Like a really rigid family might be more durable. However, a more flexible family might be able to adapt to change better. So there's pros and cons, and you, as a nurse, have to identify that. The family structure, which makes sense. I feel like everyone can kind of see it. For the servers out there who have worked server jobs, you can see it from a while away. Traditionalist families versus really relaxed families, just in the way that the people speak. And for the not servers out there, obviously, when you meet your family, the family of your friends, you can see it. So stuff that's pretty intuitive so far. Family function is what a family does, interacts, right? So the 3 levels of approaching nursing family. So the way that I remembered the 3 levels is CPS, which is kind of funny. So family as a context. So the patient that you're going to be treating, you have to think about their family as a context. Where are they in this family? Are they, primary breadwinners? Are they the mother? Are they, what role do they? Who is this patient? The family just provides context. When you view a family as a context, the primary focus of the healthcare and development of the individual member exists within a specific family environment. Although you focus on the health and the individual family member, you also assess how much the family provides to the patient's basic needs. Family as a patient. You view family as a patient. The family needs processes. So they have needs, right? Because they're also going through it. For, those, basically everyone who has had a family member go through some acute disease, you feel some of the weight. So, right. Family as a system. What can they provide? What, transportation? Can they give food? Stuff like that. Also, we have to acknowledge that some families do not place a high value on good health. In fact, harmful practices are exempted by some families, such as poor eating as an acceptable way to cope with stress. So we have to also acknowledge that the relationship family and health can have. So, attributes of healthy families. Some families are crisis-proof, which others are crisis-prone. Structures that are more flexible allow for adaptability, but not so flexible that the family lacks cohesiveness. Family hardness. So we have family resiliency, durability, and now hardiness. So stupid. Family hardiness includes the internal strengths and the durability of the family unit. So seems like someone should have taken a nap before streaming. It's just catching up with me, guys. I'm in a cozy room. I'm in my bedroom this time. You're dumb, bro. Genetic factors. I don't have to talk about that. We already know genetic factors. Obviously, if a family has a high rate of dementia, Let's check in on that. Heart disease. Let's check in on that. And again, when we're these are everything is kind of just over the place, just because it's all kind of the same idea. So living with acute care. So how does the family respond? It's gonna affect the family economically, emotionally, socially, and functionally. Right? Hospitalization of a health member is gonna affect the whole family. That was pretty funny. Trauma is sudden, unplanned, right? If I'm not reading it, it's very intuitive. Like it's not worth reading. Family assessment. So this is just stuff that we can take a look at. Family functioning, development assessment, family structures. I'm looking at box 10.3 on page 137. Ultimately, your aim is to help the family reach a point of optimal function. So this could be participating in conflict resolution between family members. So, yeah. Also, when you're doing a family assessment, you also want to see the attitude that a patient has towards their family. Sometimes it's not good. Sometimes they don't want their family to be involved at all, whether it be they don't like their family or they don't want to stress out their family. So, this is also so repetitive. Assess the family function. You guys can hear that? You guys can hear my girl cooking right now? Earlier it was kind of loud, to be honest, but she cooks so good. I should show you guys when she's done cooking. Anyways, yeah, very intuitive stuff. I'm gonna just skip the page. Cultural aspects, haha. Okay, for discharge planning, of course, assessing the family. No, I have to read. Assessing the family impacts nursing diagnosis. So, what's some common nursing diagnoses? Conflicting caregiver attitude, impaired family coping, risk for caregiving, family able to participate in child care planning. So yeah, just assess the family, see what they can do, write it down. Collaborate with the family. Promote health in the family. Maybe I will skip. This is pretty easy stuff. One approach to help families is yeah, chapter 12 is where the good stuff is. One approach to do family stuff is talk about their strengths. So, families don't see their own strengths, and so it's good to help them out with that. Oh yeah, when family members become caregivers, the relationship often change. So they view their parent different, the patient different, just because they see them at a super weak point. And so that's kind of how patient mistreatment kind of goes on. Also, evaluate the family-centered care through the patient's eyes. So reflect and ask the patients for feedback. Because they're the ultimate feedback. They're the ones doing all this stuff. Anyways, so let's go to the review questions. We made it, guys. All right. So, first question. A family includes a mother, a stepfather, two teenage biological daughters of the mother, and a biological daughter of the father. The father's daughter just moved home following the loss of her job in another city. The family is converting a study into a bedroom. It is in the process of distributing household chores. Nursing assessment reveals that all members of the family perceive that their family can adjust to the lifestyle changes. The family response is an example of family, I'm going to say, resiliency, bravely. Yeah, so durability again is saying, even though my family has gone through a lot, divorces, other families, step families, the durability is me still being able to call that person family. Resiliency, however, is the changes, being able to adapt to change. Diversity is there's different families. Configuration is not something we learned about. A mother and her two children do not have secure housing and enter a free healthcare clinic. Which factors most likely describe the effects of housing insecurity on this family? The children have stability in their education. Probably not. The family members have symptoms of malnutrition such as anemia. Yeah, probably. The family is at a low risk for experiencing violence. Not true. The children have a high risk for developing ear infections. Probably. Family members are likely to have mental issues. Yes. Oh, so okay, that makes sense. We got this all right. Okay, number 3. A nurse is caring for a 60-year-old patient who lives alone and is receiving chemotherapy and radiotherapy. For a cancer diagnosis, he is unable to care for himself because of the severe pain and fatigue. The patient moves into this 68-year-old brother's home so his brother can help care for him. Which assessment finding indicates the family caregiving situation will be successful? Both the patient and the church regularly attend church together. Sure. That's a coping strategy. Brothers now live together and enjoy eating the same foods. No. Saying that it's not true. I don't know why they would even include that. They don't even say anything about it here. How stupid. Other siblings live in the same city are willing to help. Yes, that will be successful. The patient and his brother have a close network of friends. They will be successful. The patient has an obsessive compulsive disorder and has difficulty throwing away possessions. Probably not. A 7-year-old child has recently been diagnosed with asthma. The nurse provides education to the child and to the parents about treatment, management, and stuff. Which statement by the patient requires follow-up by the nurse? We made an appointment to talk about with the school nurse to talk about the change in the child's health. No follow-up needed. We forgot to give our daughter her medications before bedtime, so we made a list of medications to help us remember. Yeah, that makes sense. We worked out a schedule to check on her before and after school. Which makes sense. We haven't been spending time with our parents because we're so busy taking care of our daughter. We should probably check up on that. Make sure to balance time. Consistent family. A family consisting of a grandparent, 2 adults, 3 school-age children just immigrated to the United States. They come to a community wellness center to establish health care. Which of the following questions would the nurse ask to assess the family's function? What does your family do to keep members healthy? Yes. How does your family usually make decisions? Yes. Family function. What healthcare services are available in your neighborhood? That's not family function. Which rituals or celebrations are important in your family? I would say yes, family function. Is there a lot of crime in your neighborhood? How many parks are there in your community? It's not about family function. Rationales on 143 at the bottom, it says rationales for review questions can be found in the Evolve website. They don't even help, guys. Why'd you even bother? Developmental theories, right? Growth encompasses the physical changes. However, development refers to the biological, cognitive, and social emotional changes in the beginning of conception through the lifetime. Right, so, and by understanding these theories, we can kind of simulate it to our patient care. So once we see a 6-year-old, we'll kind of have a gist of what's going on. Not that these theories are true. There's lots of critiques of these. They're not law. They're not Michelle Law. All right, so first we have Jessel's theory. So that's cephalocaudal patterns and proximal distal growth. So cephalocaudal is from head down, and proximal distal is from in to out. So your organs develop before your arms do, right? Sigmund Freud. So we go from oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. That makes sense. I mean, to me at least. Orally, you're sucking on a nipple to get all your pleasure, because you're getting food. Anal, because you're 12 to 3 years, is because you're delaying the satisfaction of pooping to satisfy your parent. Phallic is when you're kind of getting interested and you're into what's going on down there. Penis envy, you guys know. Latency is 6 to 12 is when Freud thinks that people just kind of forget about the sexual stuff and just kind of move those urges to focus on other things. Genital is when is the final stage when sexual urges reawaken and people start having sex. Erik Erikson. All right, so me and Coral looked up mnemonics to remember all the order of the theory of psychosocial development stages. And it's funny that it's always the most striking and the craziest ones that I remember. Like the cranial nerves, the mnemonic. I remember I was with my girlfriend and I was just studying right next to her and I just started laughing just because it was O to touch and feel a virgin girl's vagina. And I was like, what the heck? That's so funny. And then I read a bunch of them, and then that was the only one that stuck because it's like, what the hell? And so the one for Erik Erikson is also pretty lewd. It is my dumb girl in red is sucking dick. My dumb girl in red is sucking dick. So, and that's only for the second word. So my, mistrust, dumb, doubt. I'm assuming you guys are following along here. Girl, guilt, inferiority, role, red, isolation, is, self-absorption and stagnation, sucking, despair, dick. So it's lewd, it's gross, but it's what helps me remember just because it's so striking. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Why would you even say that? Who thought about that and posted it online? Anyways, trust versus mistrust. This one's a gimme. We all know this one. 12 to 18 months. Birth to 12 to 18 months. Right. So develop trust with the caregiver. Autonomy versus self-doubt. This is up to 3 years of age, 18 months. Kids want to be part of the stuff. They want to make choices. And they want to be able to move. They want to walk. They want to be free. They want to be able to toilet themselves. They want to... Initiative versus guilt is the child's like to pretend and try out new roles. Pace and Prim says these mnemonics are memorable. Right? Isn't it so weird? It's like I read a whole bunch of them, but the one that sticks with me is my dumb girl in red is sucking dick. It's like, dude, who the fuck thought? Who, bro, who are you? You know, like, who said that? Initiative versus guilt. So kids wanna be able to like take control, want to set their own games, and if they're getting shot down by their caregivers, then they feel guilt. Industry versus inferiority. Kids want to be able to have skills. They want to have a bunch of knowledge. They want to learn a bunch of stuff. They want to have some sort of industry. And if they don't achieve that, then they get a sense of inferiority. Identity versus role confusion is easy because it's like we always learn about that with puberty, anyways. Intimacy versus isolation is, I think it's like after 19. So 12 to 19 is identity and role confusion. Intimacy and isolation is 19 to something. Generativity, middle age, is kind of when you're old and you kind of want to give back and you want to, for example, you want to work as a coach, help kids. Integrity versus despair makes sense. 65 plus. It's kind of like when you're like, did I live a good life? Blah, blah, blah. All right. Temperament theories. This one's easy. An easy child is an easy and even going tempered. This child has regular and predictable habits. A slow to warm up child typically displays discomfort when introduced to new situations. Difficult child, highly distracted, active, irritable. The child may develop benefit from practice. John Piaget. All right, so this one's also kind of easy. Sensory motor. Their thinking is simply based off of their feeling. It's very in the now. They also, John Piaget says that they learn object permanence. The pre-operational stage is when they're kind of developing some symbols and mental images. They kind of believe in animalism, so that everything has kind of lifelike thoughts. And during pre-operational, it's still very egocentric. 7 to 11, people are starting to understand other people's perspective. Conservation, so conservation of matter. Seriation, people can list out the steps of a process without actually doing it. So like, which younger kids can't. They have to actually do the process to explain it. Also, the idea of reversibility. And 7 to 11, I kind of, with this, these are kind of a lot of things to remember, but I kind of remember the age range, and it kind of makes sense that they would have the ability to, like reversibility and stuff. Formal operation is from 11 to adulthood. And that's like kind of when they mature and kind of think like everyone else. And people say that there's post-formal thought, and that's kind of when people understand more. It's pretty simple stuff. Before we get into the moral development, which kind of has a little bit more meat and bones, I'm going to check in on my food. I'm pretty excited. So I'm just going to set you guys here. Okay, we back. Okay. So I think I'm gonna assume this position here. So I'm just gonna lay in my bed, and you guys are gonna watch me lay in my bed a little bit. All right, for Kohlberg's theory of moral development, we got pre-conventional reasoning. So at this stage, all morals are basically based off likes and pleasures. So we're not really thinking about, like, the reason why people do stuff is so that they can feel pleasure. So that makes sense. Pretty little kid thinking. Conventional reasoning is when people start thinking about more than themselves. Post-conventional reasoning is when people realize that, you know, societal rules are not always just, and yeah, it's about it. All right, let's do some questions. Guys, I didn't even do the case study for chapter 10. You guys didn't even tell me. Let's open her up. So I'll let everyone read this too. I'm gonna be reading it. You guys might notice I'm just skipping over this shit. All right, done. You guys, we're making it through. We're almost to the meat and potatoes of it all. Maybe I'll have to do a part 2 or something tomorrow. This really meat and bones, like. Okay. So I'm expecting everyone to also have their review questions open. Okay, so number 1. A 9-year-old child has difficulty making friends at school, being chosen to play on teams. He also has trouble completing his homework and as a result receives little positive feedback. I'm gonna go with a feeling of inferiority and inadequacy. Just because it gives me industry versus inferiority. Oh yeah, look, it says industry right here. Okay, cool. When Ryan was 3 months of age, he had a toy train. When his view of the train was blocked, he did not object permanence. Okay. Did you guys just see that? Were you guys able to see my girlfriend move around? Did you guys just spot that? When preparing a 4-year-old child for a procedure, which method is developmentally most appropriate for the nurse to use? Allowing the child to watch another child undergoing the same procedure, showing the child pictures of what he will experience, kind of symbolic, that might be pretty helpful. Preparing the child through play and doll toy medical equipment, probably that one. Or taking the child to simple terms about what happened. 4-year-old child, I'll probably do the toy. Yeah. They learn more easily with play is teached. Okay, cool. Elizabeth, who's having unprotected sex with her boyfriend, comments to her friends, "Did you hear about Kathy? You know, she fools around so much, I heard she was pregnant. That would never happen to me." This is an example of a sense of invulnerability. Yeah, that makes sense. Which of the following are examples of conventional reasoning? So I'm going to read these in my head. Yeah, that makes sense. It says 1 and 2 are correct. The rest are makes sense. Like even the one she decides not to go shoplifting, but it's not because of the moral dilemma. It's because of getting caught. That doesn't show conventional. That doesn't show conventional reasoning. Okay, we're on conception through adolescence, chapter 12. So, for nurses, encouraging toddlers to make simple choices and feed themselves advance their development. Nurses that recognize adolescents are developing independence and therefore should feel empowered to participate in decisions regarding their care. So, that's basically kind of why we're learning. Gonna get context and kind of learn. Oh, sorry. We got to do chapter 11 case study. Damn, we saw 4 chapters. What the fuck? Yeah, I'll probably just call it early and do it tomorrow. Coral! Coral got featured in this. Anal. Anal's delayed gratification of going poop. Intimacy versus isolation. That was so easy. I didn't even have to think about that one. Okay. Okay, so now we're just gonna go through conception through adolescence. Damn. So pre-embryonic stage is the first 14 days. After that is the embryonic stage, which is the 15th day to the 8th week. After that, it goes from the 8th week until birth, which is the fetal stage. The placenta begins to develop at the 3rd week of the embryonic stage. It functions as the fetal lungs, kidneys, gastrointestinal tract, endocrine organ. There are teratogens, or things that can cross the placenta and fuck with the baby. Okay, so I'm just going to give some broad overviews now just because it's later into the night. During pregnancy, people need to have nutritional requirements. An increase in weight does not always indicate an increase in nutrients. As females age, the risk of chromosomal defects and infertility increases. Pregnant adolescents often seek prenatal care late into the pregnancy and fail to seek prenatal care. So adolescents often get out too late. There are a lot of there's a lot of physical issues with pregnancy, such as vomiting, breast tenderness, urinary frequency, heartburn, constipation, ankle edema, back acne. Okay, so that's all the stuff that can happen before. It's very intrauterine to extrauterine. So now they're outside of the baby. So immediate physical changes. People use the APGAR test to score how babies are doing. So a typical score is 7 to 10. That's a good score. Neonatal period is the first 28 days of life. So the first 2 weeks, the first week the baby loses a little bit of weight. The second week they gain it all back just because of the fluids. They're still getting used to being outside of the mom. So you're going to want to check their reflexes. There's also molding and overlapping of the soft skull bones, which allows the fetal head to adjust to various diameters. And now for the anterior fontanelle, the front one is closed by 12 to 18 months. The back one is, I think, 2nd or 3rd month. Yeah, which makes sense in the photo. We can see it's a lot smaller in the back. Cognitive changes. Newborns respond to black and white, human faces, contrasting patterns in bright colors. Crying means that they want something, that there's an unmet need. Screening. The number one problem with babies, newborns, is hearing loss. Car seats are the number one, automobile injuries are the number one leading cause of death in children in the United States. So keep them in the rear-facing seat until they're 2 years old. Sleeping in cribs. Do not sleep with your baby. They have an increased risk of sudden infant death syndrome. Stuffed animals, blankets, it's better to have them on a flat bed. Infant spans from 1 month to 1 year. So birth weight doubles in approximately 5 months. And then triples in 12 months. Again, so we're talking about some reflexes. Object permanence and the sensory motor period, as we talked about before. By 1 year, babies know 3 to 5 words. And during their first year, they understand that they are not their mother's separation and of themselves from their mother. Play. Much of infant play is solitary and exploratory, and infants use their senses to observe and examine their own bodies and objects. Injury prevention, unintentional injury, motor accidents, suffocations, falls, poisoning, traumatic events. Nutrition is important. Get them to drink. Breastfeeding is recommended for infant nutrition because breast milk contains essential nutrients, protein, fats, carbohydrates, and immunoglobulins that bolster the ability to resist infection. The average 1 month old infant consumes approximately 18 to 21 ounces of breast milk or formula. This amount increases slightly during the first. Get your babies immune, make them eat good, let them sleep a lot. However, sleeping patterns are often reversed until 3 to 4 months of age. Toddlerhood, they can start walking. Start asking who's what and why things are. They start developing reasoning based off their limited experience. They like parallel play. Toddlers like parallel play, which kind of makes sense for me that toddlers would like parallel play, playing by themselves and their own little things. Because once they get into school, they like to play with each other. So that's how I remember kind of that difference. Health risks, they're gonna, it's kind of all the same. One thing to note about toddlers is to not let them drink too much milk because otherwise it'll reduce their hunger and then they won't get sufficient nutrients. Yeah, when they're preschoolers, they like to play associatively and they start really developing their fear of bodily harm. They start talking a whole lot by preschool, right? You can imagine a little preschooler talking to you about everything. Vision screenings, school age children. A lot of this is talking about the cognitive stuff, and we were just talking about earlier with Piaget's and Erik Erikson, so I'm not going to really go over that. We just did. Sexual identity with the Freud stuff. I guess adolescence is what things really spice up just because, people are really doing stuff. They're going to die from accidents. They're going to kill themselves. They're going to abuse substances because of the sense of invulnerability. They're going to get eating disorders. They're all going to get sexually transmitted infection. They're all going to get pregnant. Okay, let's do the questions. Okay. So, number 1, a mother. Okay, let's do the questions. Number 1, a mother brings her 6-month-old infant in for her child examination. Wellness child. Which statement indicates she needs further teaching? Okay, so we're thinking 6-month-old. Okay. I can start giving her whole milk about 12 months. I can continue to breastfeed for another 6 months. I can give her plenty of fruit juice to increase her vitamin intake. Oh, these are pretty hard. I was going to say the fruit juice one because we've already gotten a question about it. The use of fruit juice in non-nutritive drinks such as fruit-flavored drinks, soda should be avoided in infants since they do not provide sufficient and appropriate calories during this period and they take up appetite. They take up space in their stomach. A nurse is teaching the mother for a young infant about the prevention of sudden infant death syndrome. Which of the following statements indicates that the teaching has been effective? I'll let my baby sleep in the bed with me so I can watch her. No. I'll remove stuffed animals. Yes. I'll place the baby on the back for her sleep. Yes. I'll be sure to keep his babies cool. Yes. Okay. So I'm looking up and I see that the bed bumper is incorrect, which makes sense. You're supposed to keep the crib basically clear. Yeah. Place the skills in expected order from gross motor development of an infant beginning to the earliest skill. Earliest skill is... Whoa, this is so hard. Holy shit. Number one says it's number one, which makes sense. Because lifting the head while prone occurs first. Followed by turning and then rolling. Then sitting, followed by standing. Turning. Wow, that's pretty tough. The rolls from back to abdomen and rolls from abdomen to back. Distinction is pretty tough. That's going to be the real meat and potatoes. Tomorrow, that's what I'll study. No, I'm reading number 4. One and 4 are only correct. Okay, I did it. I'm going to go to the next one. No, wait, we have to do the case study. 3 more chapters. Damn. Yeah, do you want it? Guys, this sucks. Studying sucks. I hate studying. I just want to chill and have fun and watch movies. Damn, bro. Hella people die from car crashes. You guys gotta start driving more chill, guys. I know you guys. I know you guys. You guys have a lot of trust in your car. Emerging adulthood, right? You're gonna get new responsibilities. You're gonna be trying to be clinging on to the freedom of adolescence. Physical changes. Peak. You're gonna be at your peak. You're not gonna really experience severe illness. You're gonna also be really active. You're also gonna postpone physical health. You're gonna ignore symptoms. Poverty, of course, is an issue with health. Also, the idea that people are not just searching for jobs, and once they're adults, not just for money, but for self identity. So yeah. Now that we've read a lot of this stuff, it's so intuitive. So I'm not even reading it because I'm confident that you guys would be able to answer. We'll be able to fill this out even if I just asked you. And because it's young adults, they're at the peak. There's mostly a lot of the stuff is going to be prevention. All the care is going to be prevention. So you're going to have to identify their lifestyle, and obviously younger people like to be risk takers, so lots of drinking, lots of smoking. You want them to have a solid career because you want them to get money. The average adult under 24 to 38 has an average of $78,000 worth of debt. Wow. Sexuality. Psychodynamic aspect of sexuality is important as the type or frequency of sexual intercourse of young adults. Just tell them to practice safe sex, childbearing cycle. Some young adult families. Violence is what's killing them because, disease isn't really killing them. Family history. This is super universal stuff. Intimate partner violence, however, so we have to keep an eye out for that. Substance abuse, smoking, human trafficking, unplanned pregnancies, environmental or occupational factors or hobbies. So an example would be like agriculture workers working with pesticides, which can cause skin cancer and farmer's lung. Health promotion. promote their health basically. Breast cancer is the most common major cancer in people from 15 to 39. Family stress, work related stress, infertility, obesity is a major health problem, exercise, tell them to exercise, prenatal care, women who are anticipating pregnancy benefit from good health practices before conception, including balanced diet, folic acid, exercise, dental checkups, prenatal care, and avoidance of alcohol, and cessation of smoking once conception occurs. Okay, middle adults. Sandwich generation. You're taking care of your kids and your parents. There's a lot of inevitable biological changes here as well. Most visible changes during middle adulthood is graying of the hair, wrinkling of the skin, and thickening of the waist. Perimenopause and menopause. Menstruation and ovulation occur in a cyclical rhythm in women for adolescence into the middle adulthood. Perimenopause is the period during which ovarian function declines, resulting in a diminishing number of ova in a regular menstrual cycle. It generally lasts 1 to 3 years. Menopause is the disruption of this cycle primarily because of the inability of neurohormonal system to maintain its periodic stimulation of the endocrine system. Okay, guys, it's done. I have to end the stream early. I will see you all tomorrow. But keep on studying. Keep on studying. I gotta go eat food. My girl just made me food, so. I hope this was some good review for you all. Hopefully, you guys, this wasn't learning. It was more so review. I would say the hardest part is going to be the young stuff. All the middle adult stuff and the older care stuff were all pretty oriented to geriatric stuff and the geriatric issues. So it's almost intuitive by now. However, there is a lot of information. Also, chapter 15, the critical thinking stuff is super easy. So yeah, just tomorrow and tonight focus on chapter 13. Of course, review the other things, but I mean chapter 12. But the meat and bones is going to be in the crazy development from chapter 12. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and as always, thank you for watching. Good night, guys.